For many rich and wealthy families, their wealth and influence is largely attributed to the inheritance from their ancestors. But this was not the case for the Rockefeller family. This is the story of one man who, against all odds, became the richest man in his time and built a dynasty in his name by possessing a ruthless and keen business acumen. While you may be aware that in 1977 the Rockefellers became recognized as one of the most powerful families in American history, what you may not know is the background story of the great Rockefeller dynasty and the secret to how they were able to rise to such great power and influence. In today's video, I'll show you how the renowned John D. Rockefeller became the patriarch of the Rockefeller dynasty, from dabbling around as a mere commodity trader to co-founding a partnership and finally starting an oil business, making them become owners and controllers of one of the world's largest fortunes. Since theirs wasn't an inheritance story, what could it have been? Sheer luck? Or something more than that? Let's find out. The Rockefeller family originated in the Rhineland region in Germany and can be traced to the town Neuwied in the early 17th century. The American family branch is descended from Johann Peter Rockefeller, who migrated from Rhineland to Philadelphia in the province of Pennsylvania around 1723. In the US, he became a plantation owner and landowner in Somerville and Amwell, New Jersey. One of the first prominent members of the Rockefeller family was William A. Rockefeller Sr. William A. Rockefeller Sr. was born to a Protestant family in Granger, New York. He had 6 children with his first wife, Eliza Davidson, daughter of a Scots-Irish farmer. Out of the 6 children, the most prominent were John D. Rockefeller and William A. Rockefeller Jr. These two would later become oil tycoons and co-founders of Standard Oil Company. John D. Rockefeller, known as Sr., as opposed to his son John D. Rockefeller Jr., known as Jr., was a devout Northern Baptist, and he supported many church-based institutions. While the Rockefeller family are mostly Baptists, some of the Rockefellers were Episcopalians. Over time, the Rockefeller family became an American industrial, political, and banking family that will subsequently own one of the world's largest fortunes. A fortune acquired from the American petroleum industry during the late 19th and early 20th centuries by the brothers John D. Rockefeller and William A. Rockefeller Jr., primarily through Standard Oil Company, after they ventured into the oil business during the 1860s and established the ExxonMobil and Chevron Corporation. The family also had long association with and control of Chase Manhattan Bank, and by 1977, the Rockefellers were eventually considered one of the most powerful families in American history. A very notable person in the Rockefeller dynasty is John D. Rockefeller Sr. John D. Rockefeller is considered the patriarch of the Rockefeller family and is also referred to as the founder of the Rockefeller dynasty. His role as the founder of Standard Oil Company in 1870 and his subsequent success in the oil industry laid the foundation for the family's vast wealth and influence. But before the Rockefeller family ventured into the oil industry and amassed so much wealth, they were involved in various business pursuits. John D. Rockefeller, the patriarch, initially worked as a bookkeeper. Later on, he entered the commodity trading business. In the early 1860s, he co-founded a partnership, Clark and Rockefeller. It was a partnership which dealt with commission merchants and produce traders. It was only in 1863 that John D. Rockefeller, along with other partners, entered the oil business by investing in an oil refinery in Cleveland, Ohio. This, of course, marked the beginning of his involvement in the oil industry and led to the establishment of the Standard Oil Company in 1870. As a result, the family's fortunes skyrocketed afterwards, and Standard Oil became a dominant force in the oil refining and distribution business in the United States, contributing largely to the Rockefeller family's wealth. There's an age-old saying that wealth is made and lost in 3 generations. In other words, wealth rarely lasts beyond the grandkids. Taxes, spending, the dilution of wealth through children and their children's children, and the inevitable spoiling effect of so much money eventually take a toll on family fortunes. Yet, the Rockefeller family has defied all of that. In 1991, the family was presented with the Honor Award from the National Building Museum for 4 generations' worth of preserving and creating some of the US's most important buildings and places. They earned the National Building Museum's Vincent Scully Prize and were honored for their contributions, particularly for their role in the development and preservation of the Rockefeller Center in New York City. The ceremony coincided with an exhibition on the family's contributions to the built environment, including John Sr.'s preservation efforts for the Hudson River Palisades, the restoration of Williamsburg, Virginia, reconstruction of Rockefeller Center, and Governor Nelson's efforts to construct low- and middle-income housing in New York State. Now entering its 7th generation, with as many as 170 heirs, the Rockefeller family has maintained substantial wealth. They had an $11 billion fortune in 2016, according to Forbes. That's more than 100 years after John D. Rockefeller became America's first billionaire after starting Standard Oil Company. Beginning with John D. Rockefeller Sr., the family has been a major force in land conservation. Over the generations, it has created more than 20 national parks and open spaces, including the Cloisters, Acadia National Park, Forest Hill Park, the Nature Conservancy, and Rockefeller Forest in California's Humboldt Redwoods State Park, the largest stand of old-growth redwoods, and Grand Teton National Park, among many others. John Jr. and his son Lawrence are particularly prominent in this area. From the outset, the family's wealth has been under the complete control of the male members of the dynasty through the family office. Despite strong-willed wives who had influence over their husbands' decisions, such as Abby Aldrich Rockefeller, wife of John D. Rockefeller Jr., in all cases they received allowances only and were never given even partial responsibility for the family fortune. Much of the wealth used to be locked up in the family trust of 1934, which held the bulk of the fortune and matured on the death of the 4th generation, and the trust of 1952, both administered by Chase Bank, the corporate successor to Chase Manhattan Bank. These trusts have consisted of shares in the successor companies to Standard Oil and other diversified investments, as well as the family's considerable real estate holdings. They are administered by a trust committee that oversees the fortune. Management of this fortune today rests with Rockefeller Financial Services, a body of professional money managers who oversee the principal holding company and control all of the family's investments. In 1992, it had 5 main arms: Rockefeller & Co., Venrock Associates, Rockefeller Trust Company, Rockefeller Insurance Company, and Acadia Risk Management. The Rockefeller family was heavily involved in numerous real estate construction projects in the U.S. during the 20th century. Among these projects are the Rockefeller Center, a multi-building complex built at the start of the Depression in Midtown Manhattan. The construction of this building was financed solely by the Rockefeller family. The International House of New York, New York City, constructed in 1924, was overseen by John D. Rockefeller Jr., while involving John III, Abby Aldrich, David and Peggy, David Jr., and Abby O'Neill. The Wren Building, College of William and Mary, Virginia, from 1927. Renovation was funded by John Jr., to mention but a few. While John Sr.'s donations led to the formation of the University of Chicago in 1889, the Central Philippine University in the Philippines, and the Chicago School of Economics, a further project involving David Rockefeller, John Jr.'s youngest son in a major middle-income housing development when he was elected in 1947 as chairman of Morningside Heights Incorporated in Manhattan by 14 major institutions that were based in the area, including Columbia University. The result, in 1951, was the 6-building apartment complex known as Morningside Gardens. This was one instance of a long family and Rockefeller Foundation tradition of financially supporting Ivy League and other major colleges and universities over the generations. In the 1920s, the International Education Board granted important fellowships to pathbreakers in modern mathematics, such as Stefan Banach, Bartel Leendert van der Werden, and André Weil, which was a formative part of the gradual shift of world mathematics to the US over this period. To help promote cooperation between physics and mathematics, Rockefeller funds also supported the erection of the new Mathematical Institute at the University of Göttingen between 1926 and 1929. The rise of probability and mathematical statistics owes much to the creation of the Institut Henri Poincaré in Paris, partly by the Rockefellers' finances, also around this time. A core value imbibed by the Rockefellers is philanthropy. John D. Rockefeller gave away $540 million over his lifetime and became the greatest lay benefactor of medicine in history. His son, Junior, also gave away over $537 million over his lifetime, bringing the total philanthropy of just 2 generations of the family to over $1 billion from 1860 to 1960. Added to this, the New York Times declared in a report in November 2006 that David Rockefeller's total charitable benefactions amount to about $900 million over his lifetime. David Rockefeller was an American banker, philanthropist, and a prominent member of the Rockefeller family. He was born on June 12, 1915, and passed away on March 20, 2017. David Rockefeller served as the chairman and chief executive of Chase Manhattan Corporation, which later merged with J.P. Morgan & Co. to become J.P. Morgan Chase. Beyond his role in banking, David Rockefeller was known for his extensive philanthropic activities. He played a key role in establishment and management of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and was involved in various cultural, educational, and environmental initiatives. He was the family patriarch until his death in 2017. In 1960, when his brother Nelson Rockefeller was governor of New York, David Sr. successfully pressed for a repeal of a New York state law that restricted Chase Manhattan Bank from operating outside the city. David Sr. was twice offered the post of Treasury Secretary by President Richard M. Nixon, but declined on both occasions. In 1979, he used his high-level contacts to bring Mohammad Reza Shah of Iran, who had been overthrown in the Iranian Revolution and was in poor health, for medical treatment in the United States. In 1998, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Bill Clinton for his work on the International Executive Service Corps. In 1972, on the 100th anniversary of the founding of Andrew Carnegie's philanthropy, the Carnegie Corporation, which has had a long association with the family and its institutions, released a public statement on the influence of the family on not just philanthropy, but encompassing a much wider field. Summing up a predominant view among the international philanthropic world, albeit one poorly grasped by the public, one sentence of his statement read, "The contributions of the Rockefeller family are staggering in their extraordinary range and in the scope of their contribution to humankind. The combined personal and social connections of the various family members are vast, both in the United States and throughout the world, including the most powerful politicians, royalty, public figures, and chief businessmen. Figures through Standard Oil alone have included Henry Flagler and Henry H. Rogers. Contemporary figures include Henry Kissinger, Richard Parsons, the chairman and CEO of Time Warner, C. Fred Berkston, Peter G. Peterson, senior chairman of the Blackstone Group, and Paul Volcker. With ExxonMobil and Chevron stations still being built today, the family has consumed and purchased companies over time such as General Mills, Kellogg, Nestle, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and Procter & Gamble, to name only a few. The family was honored for its conservation efforts in November of 2005 by the National Orbidon Society, one of the United States' largest and oldest conservation organizations, at which over 30 family members attended. At the event, the Society's president, John Flicker, stated, "Cumulatively, no other family in America has made the contribution to conservation that the Rockefeller family has made." The Rockefellers remain one of the richest families of all time, currently valued at $8.4 billion among 70 heirs. The fact that the Rockefellers have continued to keep the wealth in the family for decades is proof of their knowledge in generational wealth building. They recognized the importance of diversification in wealth preservation. While the initial fortune was built on oil, the family expanded their investments into various sectors over the years. They have stakes in real estate, industry, and even venture capital, ensuring a consistent growth and safeguarding of their wealth against market volatility. A trademark of the dynasty over its 140-plus years has been the remarkable unity it has maintained, despite major divisions that developed in the late 1970s. Unlike other wealthy families, such as the DuPonts and the Mellons, the Rockefellers have continued to coexist in peace and unity. This is primarily due to the lifelong efforts of Junior, who not only cleanses the family name from the opprobrium stemming from the ruthless practices of Standard Oil, but also puts in tireless efforts to forge family unity even as he allowed his 5 sons to operate independently. However, it seems very unlikely that the family has remained largely united, without the public scandals, feuds, lawsuits, and tragedies that typically plague other gilded dynasties. So what's the Rockefeller secret? In an interview, David Rockefeller Jr., grandson of John D. Rockefeller and chairman of Rockefeller & Co., said that the family has developed a system of values, traditions, and institutions that have helped the family stay together and preserve their wealth. He said that they are useful to any family trying to raise children with good money values, even if you're not wealthy. This was partly achieved by regular brothers and family meetings, but it was also because of the high value placed on family unity by first Nelson and then John III, and later especially with David. There are now over 250 members of the family who are direct descendants of John D. Rockefeller and Laura Spelman Rockefeller. The family name is imprinted in numerous places throughout the United States, including within New York City, and their archives are held at the Rockefeller Archive Center in Pocantico Hills, North Tarrytown, New York. At present, the archives of John D. Rockefeller Sr., William Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller Jr., Abby Aldrich Rockefeller, Abby Rockefeller Mazet, John D. Rockefeller III, Blanchette Rockefeller, and Nelson Rockefeller are processed and open by appointment to readers in the Archive Center's reading room. Processed portions of the papers of Lawrence Rockefeller are also open. In addition, the Archive Center has a microfilm copy of the Winthrop Rockefeller papers, the originals of which are held at the University of Arkansas, Little Rock. The papers of the family office, known as the Office of the Messrs. Rockefeller, are also open for research, although those portions that relate to living family members are closed. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check out another video. Do click on the next video on your screen to watch another astounding video like this one.